Ghosts appear in many forms. We can see them.
What was that?
We can hear them.
I am not afraid.
And sometimes we can even feel them. We've gone around the globe in search of the most terrifying spirits and supernatural beings who continue to live on long after their deaths. On World's Scariest Hauntings, anything can happen. Because you never know who's watching when the lights go out.
What the hell was that?
In this episode, a 17th century house in the woods that gives many visitors the creeps.
Everyone's a bit nervous when they first come to Plas Teg because it's such a dark, cold building. It does create fear in people's minds.
The spirits of one wealthy family terrorize anyone who dare enter.
I felt there was something in the corner of the room. As I pointed my camera, there was a loud bang and candles were thrown off the table.
Ghost hunters have been physically attacked.
This thing, entity, spirit, whatever you want to call it, grabbed me in the throat and actually pinned me to the wall.
Built in rural North Wales in 1610, this stunning Jacobean home has a commanding presence on the picturesque landscape. Plas Teg literally translates into English as fair mansion, but many of the spirits that reside here are more foul than fair. The 17th century mansion was home to the Trevor family for over 325 years and even served temporarily as an asylum. It's believed that many of the inhabitants have refused to leave. Marcus Reed Edwards runs tours at Plas Teg and knows about the ghosts better than most.
I've been here at Plas Teg now for about 10 years. I first came about 15 years ago on a Twilight tour, and when I came on several of those tours, on one of the paranormal evenings I got talking to one of the team members and sort of roped myself in to help in here, and I've been here ever since.
For a paranormal enthusiast, the allure of Plas Teg is obvious.
I think if you were trying to describe the archetypal haunted house, you couldn't do much better than this. It's, very sort of gloomy, dark, brooding property that's sort of shrouded in trees that seem to loom up from behind it. It has all the hallmarks of the perfect haunted location.
Nine times out of 10, it would be residual energy that has been obviously left there from the previous occupants of the house. It could be intelligent spirits that still reside there. All those spirits could have been members of past families who've lived there or people who've actually served the family who lived there. So it's not uncommon to have quite a lot of activity within a house of that age.
Much of that activity comes from the Trevor family, who owned the house between 1610 and 1945.
Families have so much history of the different things that go on within a family, and it's generations have inhabited the land, so I would assume that there would be multiple spirits there.
There are about 15 spirits that regularly haunt the house and that are active. There are about 8 of them that don't like to interact with people or members of the public or anything, and they usually just disappear off into a part of the house that they obviously feel comfortable in spiritually.
The numerous different ghosts that are known to haunt Plas Teg include a mean-spirited judge, former owners John Trevor I and John Trevor V, child spirits Jack and Emily, and from the 17th century, a young girl named Dorothy.
The spirit of Dorothy Trevor has been seen on the roadside by Plas Teg. Now this is quite common because the spirits that are often murdered or died in tragic circumstances are repeating the same thing over and over again. It's likely that Dorothy's spirit is residual in nature, and many drivers have reported seeing apparitions running across the road or even driving past, and even on occasion hitchhiking and asking for a lift.
The story of 16-year-old Dorothy, the daughter of family patriarch Sir John Trevor I, is a tragic one.
She had been sort of promised to be married to another wealthy family's son, but she'd actually fallen in love with one of the local farmers' sons by the name of Isleworth. Isleworth and Dorothy decided that they were going to elope on her 16th birthday. She had hidden all her jewels and belongings under a tree across the road near to the well, and Isleworth and her were going to meet just up the fields. And she went across to get her belongings. Obviously she couldn't see where the well was, fell down the well, and she died. Isleworth, in a panic, went looking for her. Obviously couldn't find her. The jewels were missing, so she could have been murdered. So he went back to the meeting place and he hung himself because he didn't want to be accused of her murder and the stealing by the Trevor family, because he obviously knew what power they had and what consequences he would face later on.
When anything happens, murders, things like that, when your life is tragically taken from you, you want to avenge your own death. That would be the explanation as to why she still haunts the well or the vicinity of the well, just in order for her murderer to be brought to justice.
The ghost of Dorothy Trevor still roams around Plas Teg to this day.
That is a brilliant example of a good spirit that has been seen. There's been countless accidents outside the house of people swerving to miss this white lady, as they've described her. The police have turned up. There's nobody in the area. There's nobody been knocked over. It's believed that this is the spirit of Dorothy, who is still said to be searching for her jewellery and her belongings.
Plas Teg is a Grade 1 Jacobean mansion. The breathtaking stately home has stood in North Wales since the 17th century.
Plas Teg was built in 1610, but there was actually a dwelling on the site before the house that we see today. That belonged to the Ethel family. It was slightly smaller than the Plas Teg we see today.
It was built for a man called Sir John Trevor, who was a very prominent politician of his day, who was a courtier of King James I.
He wanted a sort of a holiday escape, a holiday home, and it wasn't until sort of the end of the 1700s that it started to become a family home. When later descendants of the Trevor family actually took ownership of the house. Once one Trevor had passed on, obviously the son from the previous family would get the house. Then the sort of hereditary ladder sort of carried on.
The original owner of Plas Teg, Sir John Trevor I, held office as Speaker of the House of Commons twice between 1685 and 1695.
He was an MP, he was quite a powerful person. He only actually had the house for about 19 years. 1629, 1630-ish, Sir John Trevor died. His wife died about 15 years later.
Despite his death over 350 years ago, Sir John is still known to make the occasional appearance at Plas Teg.
We've had occasions where we're on the spirit board and we're talking to a spirit that's passing through or a family member of one of the members of the public, and Sir John Trevor comes in and he's that domineering and overpowering, they sort of get scared and they leave the spirit board alone, and they just go and he takes over.
With so much life lived in this house, it's no surprise that Plas Teg still crackles with paranormal energy. In Flintshire, North Wales, a 17th century house named Plas Teg dominates the landscape. The Jacobean mansion is believed to be haunted by the ghosts of the Trevor family. Paranormal investigator Paul Rowland has been studying the home for 15 years.
Everyone's a bit nervous when they first come to Plas Teg because it's such a dark, cold building. It does create fear in people's minds. But once you've been here as many times as I have, I can walk around here at night on my own. I'm not that bothered. I quite like it, actually.
While using a tape recorder on one of his many nights at Plas Teg, Paul captured an electronic voice phenomenon, also known as an EVP.
We would have been in the parrot room behind us, and there was a group of public, and I'd put a specific piece of equipment on the table, and I was asking for a spirit to respond through the box because they're capable of live audio EVP, voices through the boxes. But instead of a voice, we got the dog barking. Now, I've never known a dog to be in this building whatsoever, so there wasn't a dog in the building on that night. But nevertheless, why the dog showed an interest in us, I do not know. Whether there was a dog lover in the room with us. But it was curious that it was actually heard in real time, and fortunately enough, I had an audio recorder going at the time and caught it on recording.
Introduce yourself by your name and ask for a response through the machine.
The action.
Yeah?
Then we get that. You do. Right, sounds like a dog.
It's rare, but it's not uncommon for animals to come through during a call-out session. So when you're calling out doing an EVP, you might well hear a response, and sometimes these could be domestic pets making noises. If their spirits are still there, you might well catch them at the time.
You do.
What I find strange is the fact that they've actually heard it with their own ears, which is a Class A EVP, which is something that you hear with your own ears at the same time as obviously picking it up on a voice recorder. So that is a fantastic EVP.
Introduce yourself by your name and ask for a response through the machine.
The action.
Yeah?
Then we get that. You do.
I think if we hold the idea of spirits and ghosts to be a genuine occurrence, then there's absolutely no reason why other animals, other than humans, are also capable of existing in that manner.
I mean, if a spirit can touch you or, or move things, who's to say you can't hear a dog bark or a cat meow or feel the presence of an animal?
Paul often works alongside fellow ghost hunters Mike Gibson and his mother, Jean.
Oh, I've always loved it. Always loved it. It's always intrigued me. So it was a great opportunity when they asked me to be a member here at Plas Teg. So, yeah, I never looked back.
You're just sort of drawn to this place and you want to try and catch much evidence as you can so other people can see what you've caught, really, and try and prove there's a supernatural world.
Jean and Mike have also had paranormal experiences in the parrot room.
We were filming at the table, and as we were filming, there were questions were being asked by Jean Gibson.
You want us to spend the night here? You want him to stay here?
When you've been in that room for about an hour, and then we have got a bit of footage where I happen to ask out, do you play tricks on Cornelia, the lady of the house? Do you move things?
Well, you know the lady of the house? Do you ever play tricks on the lady of the house? Because she keeps blaming that someone takes the Radio Times and pinches stuff. Is it you messing about?
As this was going on, I felt there was something in the corner of the room. As I pointed my camera, there was a loud bang where there was candles, and candles were thrown off the table.
You messing about?
I think the door opened as well at that time, so that was quite yeah, we've had that quite a lot actually, where the doors have just gone unopened for no reason. Yeah, a lot's gone on, really.
Adrenaline kicks in and you get excited and also a bit scared because you don't know what's going to happen because you're in the dark as well. But generally it's just a good feeling, really.
The supernatural happenings in the Parrot Room don't end there.
In the window, occasionally a lady has been seen looking in from the outside of that window. Now, we're 3 floors up. There's no platform for anybody to stand on out there. There's no way anybody could fix that or anything. So we genuinely do think it's spiritual. We haven't got a clue. We're trying to work out what that is.
There are 9 bedrooms at Plas Teg, which are kept in impeccable condition by current owner Cornelia Bailey. Many of the rooms experience unexplainable occurrences.
The Amber Room, a friend of Cornelia's actually came and stayed with her several years ago. Around about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, this spirit would come in, walk around the end of the bed and disappear up the long gallery. And it got him to the point where he was too scared to stay in the house, and he actually moved to one of the local hotels, and he stayed there while he was doing Cornelia's finances or whatever it was at the time, and he just refused to sleep in the house after that.
Next door, the Blue Room has a dark history. In 1901, Plas Teg was temporarily used as an asylum, primarily for housing unwed, pregnant women.
This is the Blue Room. This is where the ladies would have been brought to give birth to the children, and there would have been a couple of beds placed in the room, and then the child would have been forcibly taken from the mother, and then it would have been adopted to a married couple to become part of their family. Now, on the windows in this room, you can see that there are bars on the windows. This was to stop the mothers from passing the child to a waiting father below, probably in a makeshift basket made from sheets off the bed. And similarly, it was to stop her from committing suicide after the child was forcibly taken from her.
It's no wonder that there's supernatural energy in the Blue Room.
It usually affects the ladies in a group, and they get stomach pains and they feel sick, and they'll step back out of the room and come back in, and once they're out of the room they'll be perfectly fine, come back in, and the pains and the sickness will sort of start again.
You imagine the actual emotional anxiety that they're going to go through. It would obviously have a massive effect on the energy levels that are absorbed within the fabric of the building, so it wouldn't be uncommon for them to actually still stick around.
Despite its strong heritage and proud lineage, by the 1950s, Plas Teg had fallen into the ownership of estate agents.
They put a demolition order in on the house, and that's when Patrick Trevor Roper, one of the later descendants of the Trevor Ropers, heard about the plight of Plas Teg, and he decided that he was going to purchase the house, which he did. He never actually lived here. He rented it out to several different people, and then he decided that he could no longer afford to keep it going, and he decided to sell it, so he listed it in Country Life magazine, and that's where Cornelia spotted it in 1986.
The current owner of Plas Teg, Cornelia Bailey, worked tirelessly to restore the mansion back to its previous glory.
When Cornelia bought the house, is because it was covered in a really thick black paint. One of the people that had rented the house had painted it with a black oil paint, and it was an absolute nightmare, a disaster. And Cornelia spent 2 years with a penknife picking away at the paint to restore it. It's actually wood that comes from part of the Spanish Armada, and it's a spectacular, magnificent staircase.
I made all the curtains. I did all the upholstery. and helped do everything else. I mean, I love it. I mean, it's a Grade 1 house, but it means it's of great importance because it's so well designed as a house.
The whole house had been looted and things had been stolen and fallen ill to the weather. There was a tree growing through the middle of the room next door, and it was completely and utterly derelict, a shell basically, and there was wildlife and pigeons and all sorts flying around the house when Cornelia bought it. And she's done a magnificent job. She's brought in 99% of the stuff that you see, and she's done a fantastic job, really.
Just like many generations of the Trevor family, Cornelia has tried to protect herself from the paranormal energy at Plas Teg.
There are pentagrams or witches' marks etched into the stonework, as there are on some of the cheeks to the windows on the outside. Now, it was said that they were put in place to keep evil spirits from entering a building, and they would have been placed on entrances and exits to stop these evil spirits from getting into the house.
But it doesn't always work.
One of the scariest things that's ever happened to me, during a paranormal night, we usually have a break about 11:30, and we came down, and I usually go outside for a bit of a breath of fresh air, have a coffee and whatever, and I put my cup of coffee onto the windowsill, and this thing, entity, spirit, whatever you want to call it, grabbed me in the throat and actually pinned me to the wall. And there were several people outside there that seen this and were quite sort of terrified, as was I, quite disturbed. It was at that point I thought, I'm completely crazy to even do this, so I'm going to pack it in. I'm not doing nothing with paranormal again. It did sort of freak me out for a short while. But then I thought, no, that's stupid of me because it's something I enjoy. The spirits obviously like interacting with us, and I wanted to come back for more.
And Marcus is not alone. Many ghost hunters cannot wait to return to Plas Teg, all hoping to capture something truly incredible. Plas Teg in Flintshire, North Wales, has stood since 1610. The Jacobean house is full of supernatural energy, and in the twin poster bedroom, there is something truly magical.
We had a medium that came to the house several years ago, and she said that there's a large spiritual vortex built up at the side of this wardrobe.
It's all theoretical, but a spiritual vortex is similar to an interdimensional portal. So often psychics, mediums are able to see these vortexes as kind of swirling mists or spiraling forms of energy. Sometimes they're also seen as shimmering parts of the building.
A spiritual vortex is thought to be a kind of place of force or power that's created through the convergence of ley lines, which people believe are sort of channels of power or energy that aren't necessarily discernible to the eye. And so in the spiritual vortex you would get an area of heightened power, supposedly, that might be a gateway or a portal into another dimension, or enable people to become more sensitive to seeing spirits, that kind of thing.
Are these vortexes the same as interdimensional jumps? Are spirits able to communicate with us by coming through these? Who knows?
The spiritual vortex may be the reason why two child ghosts who predate the building have appeared in the twin bedroom.
Jack and Emily weren't actually from Plas Teg. They were part of the Ethel family who lived in the previous house to Plas Teg, and they've obviously taken a like to the house, and their spiritual energies have stayed.
We often hear ghost stories involving children as ghosts or spirits of children. And this is, I think, mainly to do with the fact that the idea that a child would somehow be left alone, to sort of haunt an area, or that just the sheer fact that a child had died, prematurely, there's something very tragic about that. So it's often something that's very emotionally compelling as a story.
Marcus has been fortunate enough to make contact with the spirit of Emily.
I've encountered her on a couple of occasions. I've actually seen her. She was supposed to have been, or they were supposed to have been, murdered by their father, who smothered them in the bed, and obviously the spirits are still terrified of him. It was later discovered on several Ouija board sessions that we've done. It was the mother that had actually killed them, and the father took the blame.
If they hold the grudge against their father, if they blamed their father for their deaths, then they will still blame their father in death because that's what had happened when they obviously passed away. I think it was their mother who actually killed them, but they wouldn't have held any grudge against their mother because they would have always believed that it was their father who killed them.
Because it's him that's coming through quite regularly, and he seems to be, for want of a better word, protecting them, or trying to protect them. I think they don't quite know who to be scared of, whether it's the mother or the father, but they're basically scared of them both because he'd obviously covered up what the mother had done to protect her, and that's basically why I think that they are scared of him as well as her.
Marcus will never forget the day he made physical contact with Emily.
This is the twin bedroom, and this is where Jack and Emily mainly haunt, obviously because Cornelia's got it decorated in a child-friendly manner, so they've taken a particular shine to this room. And this is the room that I actually saw Emily in for the first time. She was stood by the bed here, and I was sat on the floor in front of the door just there, and there was a group sat roughly in front of the fireplace, and her father entered the room through the wall at the end of that bed, and she came running across to me, and she actually sat on my knee. The best way I can explain it is like having a helium balloon on your knee. You know it's there, but there's no weight or substance to it, and it was an absolutely amazing experience, absolutely wonderful.
Child spirits are just as they are in real life. They just want to have fun. They want to play. They don't want somebody that, asks them, what year did you die? Do you know, where you are? Are you missing your mom? The child spirits are friendly. They like engaging with the paranormal seekers. They have fun with that.
Paranormal investigator Paul Rowland has been trying to capture the child ghosts on camera using some high-tech equipment.
I've been working for several generations of equipment using blue, ultraviolet and pink light, and it's a different wavelength, a different colour. And the ultraviolet in particular is a much stronger form of light, although it's less visible to our eyes. And this particular unit, it pulses the light at a rotating frequency. It gives me greater detail. Whenever I capture something, there's more detail there to look at.
You can pick up sounds, and there's frequencies that you can pick up that are inaudible to the human ear. There's quite a bit of equipment that is set up on paranormal nights.
And I've had more results since I've started using this equipment than a lot of people get over the years.
Armed with his high-tech camera, Paul came to Plas Teg determined to capture some evidence of paranormal activity.
Well, it was one of the public paranormal nights, and I would have spent some time with the groups in one of the rooms, almost certainly in the twin poster. And as they go down for a break, I decide to stay up here on my own, set up my camera and digital lighting system, and randomly take photographs. On that particular night, I got a laser pointer with me, and I just wanted to doodle and make laser art on the statues and the corridor behind me. So I took many photos with a red laser pointer scribbling on the statues, and I didn't notice straight away. It was only when I got back downstairs on several of the pictures there were anomalies, i.e. grey, misty figures. But you have to bear in mind, I was the only living person up here at the time. There was no one else with me, and nothing to account for how these misty objects or figures had appeared. So it was only later reviewing the pictures that I realised I'd caught something unusual.
Paul appears to be using a full spectrum camera. Now this takes photographs using infrared and ultraviolet light in order to see what we can't see with our naked eye. So it allows more light in and visible light so that we can see any spirits that may be lurking in that vicinity.
The incredible pictures were exactly what Paul had dreamt about capturing.
I called it the Plas Teg Ghost Child, but probably about this high. And I believe it had come out from the room here and walked. There's a series of photographs where it walked across the front of the camera. The most interesting one, I think the figure was standing about there, probably looking at me, wondering what I was doing. But the reason I think that the spirit appeared was it was curious about my laser pointer. And my frame of mind at the time was not of fear or anything to worry about. I was literally just playing and enjoying myself. And I think that is the connection that drew the child out of the room.
4 years later, Paul returned to Wales, determined to find out more about the Plas Teg ghost child.
The second one was actually 4 years apart, and the figure looks a little bit different, but it's the same height. So I believe it's probably the same spirit of a child, or the other child. There's supposed to be 2 children associated with the twin poster room here.
I think it's amazing that Paul managed to capture the same anomaly twice over 2 different years outside the same bedroom. Now this could well be a child's spirit forming, and the reason for that is because children like to interact. They're playful, they want to try and get attention, and especially from adult figures.
If you're getting the same spirit in the same spot, there's obviously something that a moment captured and printed in time there, because that moment keeps playing over and over and over and over and over again. So, you know, every day at 6 o'clock, you're going to be able to stand there and maybe get the same picture that somebody else took.
I think it's just literally being inquisitive. The more you can make yourself curious to a ghost or a spirit, the more likely you are to have an encounter. If you sit in a room in the dark, all hunched up and quiet and frightened, not quite going to be the same level of interest to a ghost or a spirit. But if you're doing something more creative, or you're asking the right questions, you're more likely to get a response.
During the 17th century, Plas Teg was not just a family home. It was used by travelling judges to try local criminals.
The day room, for the family, this would have been just basically chill out sort of room, our living room as you like today. But it was also used by Judge Jeffries, and he held court in this room on several occasions. He was a travelling judge, so we had several big houses like this with rooms set aside from which he'd carry out his court cases.
Guilty criminals would be hanged in the Indian bedroom. However, it's not their spirits that have returned to Plas Teg, but in fact, Judge Jeffries himself.
The judge has been seen on a couple of occasions. There was one occasion in this room where he was said to have attacked a member of the public. She was quite terrified. She was on the floor and we had to get her out, calmed her down, and she wouldn't take part in the rest of the night, and she just went home, and she wouldn't have nothing to do with it. She was in a complete and utter state. She was absolutely terrified by him.
Marcus has never actually seen the judge himself, but on one October night, he captured something truly unexplainable in the cottage on the grounds of Plas Teg.
I wasn't aware of any spiritual activity next door, and it was last Halloween night I came down just to keep a check on Cornelia, really, and make sure that she was safe. And I went outside, just walking around the grounds till sort of midnight, and I was just taking photos with my phone, and took one through the cottage window, or took several actually, and in one of the photos there is a man sitting in the chair, and it's absolutely awesome because the photo that I'd taken previously, there was nothing at all in the chair.
It's ghosts like the old man in the chair that makes Plas Teg such an exciting destination for paranormal enthusiasts from around the globe. Built in 1610, Plas Teg in North Wales was commissioned by Sir John Trevor I. It was his great-great-grandson, Sir John Trevor V, who became the last direct descendant to live in the Jacobean mansion. He and his wife Elizabeth both died childless in 1742.
There is quite a bit of bad energy about him, sort of thing. He had discovered his wife was having an affair. He then got quite nasty about that, and he became depressed. He started drinking heavily. He decided one day that he was going to kill himself, so he tacked the horse up and he rode it at some speed across the ground, straight into a tree, killed the horse outright and severely injured himself, and he was taken to the Regency bedroom where he spent several weeks in severe agony, and he contracted several infections, and he died of his injuries about 3 or 4 weeks later. And that's why his residual energy is so strong, and we believe he's one of the more negative spirits in the house.
The reported sightings of angry spirits is again a sort of common element of ghost stories or stories of hauntings, and this comes from what had happened to the person shortly before they died, or something that would have been related to the manner in which they died.
If you die tragically and you have all this stuff on your mind and you are grief-stricken, that's not going to be you being calm and peaceful. You're not just going to cross over it. There's some stuff that you have to work out before I believe you could get to that step. So I believe that's why he's very predominant on the land.
But this story has a macabre twist. Before killing himself, Sir John Trevor V had murdered his wife Elizabeth in a fit of jealous rage.
She was found in a pool of blood in this room, and it said that he actually had her murdered and got rid of because he got this depression and he got so low. And occasionally she will throw that mirror back against the wall in distaste of the people that come into the room. Now, it could be said that floorboards are moving the mirror, but we're moving the floorboards now, the mirror's not moving, and occasionally that mirror has come back on itself, which is absolutely impossible.
Paranormal investigator Mike Gibson has experienced the mysterious moving mirror firsthand.
When we come into the Regency bathroom, we was with a member of the public, and we could hear a running tap over near the sink. So I get up to have a look if the sink was running, and it was. And I called out and said, if any spirits in here, if you don't want us in here, could you make yourself known? As I said that, this mirror here slammed forward and then slammed back, proper aggressively. And as it did that, we got up and left the room.
Mike is certain that it was Elizabeth, the wife of Sir John Trevor V.
I think he was quite an aggressive spirit when he comes through, and he is quite strong in that room. And I think his wife haunts this bathroom, and I think that's where the connection of she doesn't like men being in here. And I think that's why we got an aggressive reaction, really.
Spirits do hold grudges. There are accounts and reports worldwide of vengeful spirits, those spirits that are trying to get revenge on the person that's living. And that might be because they were murdered, they were persecuted, they were bullied in their lifetime. And these spirits are there set on causing harm and suffering to those that are still living.
The spirit of Sir John has also been threatening to others.
He has taken a complete and utter dislike to me and Jean. He has said unspeakable things. I can't speak about them on camera, obviously, because some of them are swear words, but he said he'd like to hang us and see our demise. Some of the things he's come out with on the boards is quite scary.
Marcus has a theory behind the bad energy.
It's probably feels threatened by us, whether I'm taller than him and Jean's more domineering than he would have been. And that's basically why I think he's taken a particular dislike to us.
Sir John Trevor V remains one of the most terrifying spirits at Plas Teg.
We've never seen him, never actually seen the spirit. We've contacted through the Ouija board and table tipping sessions, and there's a big table up in the parrot room, and when he gets that table moving, it's a really heavy table. It's quite a lump of wood, and it's lifted completely off the floor. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's so exciting, and to see this big lump of a table levitate sort of a foot off the floor when people have only got their hands on the top, there's no devices or anything that could lift it underneath. Oh, it's awesome, absolutely fantastic.
Ghost hunter Jean Gibson has been co-hosting Paranormal Evenings at Plas Teg for 7 years. She has borne witness to many of the spirits that have appeared in the 17th century mansion.
To be honest, the time I feel scared is when I'm on my own. I'm okay when I'm with the public because I've got to try and be brave, but it doesn't always happen. But when I have to go back into the room to get the equipment, like the spirit boards or things like that, you just got that horrible eerie feeling that they're just watching you and you just want to get out of that room. Or you can see like a dark shadow. So you think, oh, was it or wasn't it? You know, is your imagination getting the better of you? It can be quite eerie.
On the Jacobean staircase at Plas Teg, Jean saw something that took her breath away.
The one that most particularly sticks in my mind is when I saw a lady walking up on this stair. Now, we never saw this lady again. She wasn't with the group. She wasn't anyone visiting Cornelia, so who was she? You know, and a few people have said they've sighted a lady they'll describe as Spanish. She did have lovely black hair.
I would say that the woman on the staircase would still be there from whatever happened to her. That's keeping her there, whether she fell, whether she was murdered, whether her body was never found, whether it was a place she loved. But there's many different reasons why a spirit would stay at a place.
It was a case of just looking, and because to me, she was just like looking at you, you know, she was solid. So I sort of just looked, never thought anything of it.
The mysterious dark-haired lady seems to be a direct projection from the bricks and mortar at Plas Teg.
Now, nobody knows who she is or why she's there, and she doesn't seem to interact with anybody. There are two different types of spirits, intelligent and residual. But these intelligent spirits are actual spirits that are able to interact and communicate with the living, whereas a residual energy is more like an echo of the past, a playback of past events. It's likely that she's a residual energy. She's a ghost that is there because she's attached to the building. It might well be a member of the Trevor family.
Jean will never forget seeing this fascinating apparition.
I wasn't scared because, to me, I just sort of looked, saw this nice young lady walking up the stairs. Part of me now just wish, oh, if I could go back now, I'd love to have followed her because we never saw her again. Is it the same lady that other people have seen? It's a bit of a mystery.
Plas Teg continues to be an important part of British history and an intriguing location for ghost hunters.
Every time I come, it's like the first time I'm coming. Just the unique atmosphere. It's not like a National Trust building or another house that's open to the public. It's not roped off. It's all access all areas basically. It's just so unique. I would say about 90% of the people that come here get the feeling. The Plas Teg feeling, I call it, and it's that sort of butterflies in the stomach and that excitement, and it's really exciting.